What is going on, RotoGrinders? I'm your host, Dean. Of course, this show is Sports Card Grinders, and we're going to talk about, you guessed it, sports cards. We're doing this every single week. If you guys are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe, ask some questions in the comment section. It's a good time for sure. Usual suspects, and we'll talk about somebody new we're bringing on as well. Batting first, our first expert, it's Brendan Ruby, RG contributor. Brendan, what do you have going on as far as your articles here at RotoGrinders?
A little over a week ago, I released the second market cap article. It was comparing Luka to LeBron, and I think we had a lot of good insights in there. So it was pretty nice to write. And besides that, I'm starting to collect data for these articles, but it takes a while. So I wouldn't expect the next one for at least a week. But yeah, there's 2 market cap articles out there for you guys to read on RotoGrinders if you want. And yeah, I'm working on the next one.
Outrageous comparing Luka to LeBron. How dare you? Blasphemous. In a second, after we introduce everybody, of course, our topics today, we're going to talk about the new Panini Chronicles basketball set. We'll be digging into that if that's worth kind of venturing into and buying up those boxes. How to avoid scams and scams to watch out for. That is super important, and maybe some NFL players to find value on with the season right around the corner. Up next, it's Josh Wasaki. Josh, you're still working on your series of what are you on, 2012, 2013, as far as breaking down basketball players?
Yep, we're still on the 2012 Prism set because of the combination of the 2011, 2012. It's just a lot of guys that are of value. So we've got at least one more week, maybe 2. There's probably like 6 or 7 more guys to touch on that set. But I'll have some more later this week.
Yeah, and later in this show, I believe you're going to do a little bit of a tease, a little bit of a, what's going on as far as some of the names you're going to be throwing out there, digging into for your article as well. Simon, I saw you have tell us about your video you have up right now on the RG channel, because it's got a lot of views. I noticed that pre-show.
Yeah, I have a video up that corresponds with my article that I put up earlier in the week, just giving ideas for some PSA 9 cards or different types of graded cards, comparing them to other graded cards of the same card. And this week I focused on a couple NBA players and a couple MLB players, and we'll discuss one of those MLB players today when we get to that section.
Last but not least, we're going to bring in Will Priester. You guys know him as Chief Justice Ice. I'm not really, you clarify if it's Justice or Just Ice. I feel like I've had this argument with somebody else, not you. I don't know why I wouldn't just ask the source. What's going on, Chief? Welcome to the show.
Nothing much, man. Glad to be on with you guys. Obviously, I've been following the material, plugging in a few pieces of material on my own, so I'm excited to be here and hang out. I got a new friend in Brennan. Did not know he was an OSU fan, but man,
Yes,
when this coronavirus dies down, we may have to catch a game. He's also in my second favorite city, Charlotte. So this is going to be freaking awesome. So yeah, glad to be on and ready to get rolling.
Brennan's gonna crack the top 8 in your what was that? MySpace? Is that still a thing?
Oh, MySpace, throwback.
So people know you, of course, in the DFS world. You give your DFS advice, or you crush that. But tell the people what you've been doing. Like, why are you here? You've been, how long have you been collecting for? Are you collecting when you're younger? Have you been, collecting for years and years and years? I know you're in the Discord channel at RotoGrinders talking sports cards all the time. And what is your specialty? What are you focusing on? I know later on in the show you're going to talk about some football and Canva specifically, and I know you have an article out there that's depending upon the gradings, 9.5s, 10s. Just give us your resume when it comes to sport card collecting.
Well, I'm probably just about like everyone else. I started out when I was a kid, collecting, baseball cards, basketball cards, football cards. I think at one point I even had Pokemon cards, just trying to, get whatever I could get my hands on. And, that's kind of how the trend has been. I got out of it. Obviously, you get older, go to college, get a job, stuff like that, and you kind of take time off. And then, just recently I kind of reignited my love for the hobby. But I still had all those old cards. I think I've told a couple of you guys this story, but I had a 1996 pristine Topps Chrome Kobe Bryant rookie, still sleeved up. I sleeved it as soon as I got it, and I sold it a couple years ago raw for about $300 or something like that. And boy, was I kicking myself once I got back into the hobby. I was like, what were you thinking? But, at the time, I just wasn't in the same space that I'm in now. But, hey, it happens to the best of us, but I've still got a lot of others that I've got to send off. But, yeah, man, I've been collecting probably, I'm in my 30s, so probably 30-something years roughly. I mean, shoeboxes on shoeboxes on shoeboxes.
Yeah. By the way, I just did a quick Google search. $2,400 on eBay. I'm rubbing your face in it now. I don't know why I'm doing this, but apparently that Kobe card, at least that's they're asking for $2,400 for the 1996 Topps Kobe Bryant rookie. That's a PSA 10 for what it's worth. You said you collect Pokemon. How about? Are you too young or too old? Are you too young for Garbage Pail Kids? Remember those disasters?
Oh, listen, I'm going to let Simon tell his story about Garbage Pail Kids. That's the Garbage Pail Kids master right there.
Simon, go ahead.
I had a box that I bought back in the 90s of a Series 15 Garbage Pail Kids unopened wax box. The box wasn't sealed, but all the packs were unopened. I sold it on eBay last week, not thinking I'd get more than $100 for it. I ended up getting $300 for that thing.
What?
So apparently Series 15 is ultra rare because they did a lot less of a print run for that series because the popularity of Garbage Pail Kids had waned towards the end there, and that's one of the last series that they did for that.
We just lost all the 20-year-olds that are listening. Like, what are they talking about? Garbage Pail Kids. Adam Baum was number one, if I remember correctly. Like number one, he was like the Ken Griffey Jr., like 1 of 1 in the Garbage Pail Kids series. I think that was like the most popular card back in the day. And apparently, it was a Topps card, so Topps was involved in that. But Will, you had something to say. You had something to chime in as far as Garbage.
No, I was going to say Simon did really well on that. You can't even get that kind of return on a Series EE bond. So I mean, he's rolling in dope. These Garbage Pail Kids packs.
Yeah.
So
That's that card right there.
We're supposed to dive in and talk about baseball, the negotiations. Maybe I'm just stalling. I'm talking about Garbage Pail Kids because I don't want to talk about baseball because I don't know what to talk about. So I guess Josh, we were talking about this pre-show. It looks like the owners are ready to play. Report on the 1st. We can play around July 24th or so. They asked the players, to be clear, we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon, around 5 o'clock or so. And the players have not responded to the best of my knowledge. I'm doing a quick Google search right now or a Twitter search right now. The players are supposed to say here, Josh, like we're in or we're out, and we've got no response. I guess we're just going to work under the assumption that there is going to be baseball. Let's be optimistic.
Yeah, I don't know. As we were talking pre-show, I mean, there's supposed to be a decision by 5, and none of us have seen anything. And I'm looking at ESPN right now, and there's still nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. A lot of speculation.
We can't just sit here and record and wait and just stare at Twitter the whole time. I don't think. I mean, do you have anything to add, Will, as far as the thoughts here? We're going to speculate and assume, be optimistic, but we don't know, I guess, is the conclusion.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, we should have told them we had a show at 5. We got deadlines to hit here. So
I know a guy. I should have
hurry this up. But I mean, at one point, I definitely didn't think there was going to be a season, especially within the last, I would say maybe 4 or 5 days or so. A lot of those guys were mad with Manfred. It's just too much going on. And, I read everything, up until the show, and they were saying, well, they feel confident that the guys are going to sign this form and, sign off on the protocols for safety. And, I mean, I'm just kind of repeating what Josh said, but 5 o'clock rolled around and everybody was sitting here twiddling their thumbs waiting on the information, and we still don't have anything. So I don't think the players want to play. That's my personal opinion. They seem to have shot down every revision, and I know it, on the surface it looks like the MLB is kind of writing the same story in a different way. 70 games, 25% of your salary, 60 games, 37%. They're kind of reinventing the wheel, but not really. So I don't think the players want to play, to be honest.
Also, the clock is ticking, and now we can't even play 100 games like the players originally wanted to play. I mean, I don't think that's theoretically possible anymore. And of course, the owners don't want to take a big hit, and basically, the more games they play, the more money they're going to lose. So they wanted to play as games as possible, and I guess expand the playoffs as well. But Is anybody speculated and bought any cards, baseball cards specific, or just sort of just kind of in the holding pattern? Is that what I'm seeing as far as you guys?
I've been accumulating Jason Dominguez cards, even though he's in the minors, and I think the minors are pretty much canceled. But his Bowman Prospects Chrome card has come down to around the $25 range. So I've found that as a price that I don't mind accumulating. I think there's little downside to it accumulating at this price range.
Simon, we want to do a little bit of screen share, speculating on Ronald Acuna is that an Acuna throwback you're wearing there, Chief? Let's make it an Acuna throwback. Sure, why not? I see a Braves jersey. I love that color.
Listen, I am a Braves fan. I did wear this shirt in hopes that it would bring good luck to the MLB, and clearly it did not. So we're just going to roll along. But, yeah, I'm a huge, huge Braves fan. Hopefully we can squeeze out a World Series. I still think we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but that's just me personally.
Simon, what do we see as far as our Ronald Acuna screen share? And, of course, you're going to be showing off one of the tools from sportscardinvestor.com. If you guys want to get a subscription there, 20% off your first payment, use the promo code GRINDERS, GRINDERS. Simon, take it away.
Yeah, and this chart kind of demonstrates the value of Market Movers tool from Sports Card Investor. It's a comparison of the Ronald Acuna Bowman Chrome Baseball 2017 Prospects card. I'm comparing the BGS 9.5 to the PSA 10. And I noticed a little weird activity between those different cards of this particular Bowman Chrome card, because the BGS 9.5 has been significantly higher at some points than the PSA 10, which is unusual. Usually the PSA 10 holds significantly more value overall than a BGS 9.5. So I like the value on this PSA 10, especially if the baseball season is going to start up. If they end up coming to some sort of agreement, hopefully while we're recording this show, maybe Devin can keep an eye on Twitter and give us a heads up. But I think the PSA 10 is a good card to look at right now.
Producer Devin multitasking for us. Get on that Twitter machine. Let's move off of baseball because it's just pure speculation at this point, but good data there as far as Acuna, obviously one of the best young players in all of baseball. Let's move on to something we do know, basketball. Well, we think basketball's coming back. Who knows? I don't want to speak in definitives at all. Brennan, talk to me about this Panini Chronicles set that's going to be coming sometime, I guess, end of July?
Yeah, we've got a tentative date of July 31st. It was started at July 3rd. It moved to later in the month, and we've landed on the 31st right now. But either way, when it does come out in the next month or so, we're going to be getting one of the more unique products of the year. Chronicles itself has its own base set, but it actually mixes in a lot of other sets that have come before it in the year. And this is actually the first year that Chronicles will have what I think they're calling the Donruss Optic Traded and the Prism Update. This is the first year to get those, and we all know that Optic and Prism are hot names in the industry right now. So I'm interested to see what kind of value those have. One player in particular that might be in demand is Kendrick Nunn, because I believe his first Optic didn't have a name on it or something. It was a print error. So, someone like Kendrick Nunn is going to get a second chance at a true, real, nice rookie. And so I'll be interested to see what these rookies' values are for these other Optic and Prism sets. I don't think they'll be as valuable as the original, to be honest with you. It's just my personal opinion, but I do think they'll have more value than some of the other product that are in this Chronicles set. It's both hobby and retail. And I mean, the number of sets that are in here is crazy. So you're going to have.
Oh, we've lost some audio from Brennan.
Can you hear me now?
You're good to go.
All right. So basically what you're going to get in this product is Crusade, Essentials, Gala, Illusions Limited. I mean, the list goes on and on. Some names that others know. Marquee is one, Threads, Titanium. So what you'll get in this product is really a mixed bag of different sets that have come before Chronicles in the year. And it's a pretty fun set to open. I think it'll be really interesting to see how the Prism and Optic takes, how those grade out and how the market values though. But those. But if you're looking for just a fun product to open with a lot of variety, Chronicles is going to be, a pretty good set to open.
Yeah, we may or may not be doing the screen share right now on cardboardconnection.com. It's kind of showing what you're speaking to as well. Josh, are you bullish? Are you bearish? Are you excited about this set? And in particular, what are we looking for? We're opening up a pack. What do we want?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for this. I'm a little bummed that it got pushed back because I have July 3rd off, and I was already mapping my way around my area to hit different Walmarts and Targets that day. But I'll just have to save that for later in the month. I really liked the Threads product from last year. I opened a lot of it. So I'm happy that they're going to have the Threads inserts in here. Like Brennan said, the Don Russ traded and Prism update, I think, are going to make this even more popular. Just having those two things in the set for the first time. He spoke about Kendrick Nunn's optic card not having his name. He's also most likely going to have his Prism rookie card, so because he wasn't in the original Prism set, and all the inserts that we were breaking down, those are basically rookie inserts. Those aren't bets. So all the rookies are going to have all these different inserts. So you're going to have Zions and Jaws of all of these different brands, which is fun for collectors and investors. Some are more popular than others, but definitely excited to hopefully find some out in the wild and rip it open.
For the novice, we talked about Crusade, Essentials, Gala. What is a thread? You said you're excited about threads. What's a thread specifically?
So NBA Threads was just a brand, like a set that had its own release last year. And one of the inserts in that set, which I assume is the one they're releasing with Chronicles, it's like their jersey, the player's jersey, and then the image of the player is on top of the jersey. I just really liked that card. So I'm excited that they're still going to have it this year.
And I guess Zion's the card you're looking for, like that's the main card. There's some Zion autographs. That's what I'm seeing.
Yep. Yeah. Rookie autographs are in the set. Zion, Ja, the players we've been searching for in the other sets from this year.
How about yourself, Will? Do you have July 3rd? Did you also have that circled? You're going to hit up your local Walmarts, or is this a set you have your eyes on?
Yeah, and I mean, really, because I actually I got in a couple breaks for Chronicles football, and after I kind of saw the variety in there and some of the pulls, I said, this is probably a really good set to just try to get into. Like Josh and Brendan have said, you just can't beat the variety that you get. And I know we're talking about basketball, but even in Chronicles football, I mean, they had some of the Crown Jewel stuff that you were able to pull out, and Crown Royale. I said Crown Jewels, geez, but Crown Royale, you had some of those, and I saw some really nice autos there, and that just kind of really got me excited about this set. So I don't know if I'm gonna try to map it out, because in my area here in Charleston, South Carolina, for some reason we're lagging behind in inventory. We just don't get all the cool stuff. So I have to try to get it either in a break, or call one of my good buddies like Simon, who's got the hookup there, and tell him to send me a box or two. But yeah, I'm excited about this set. Especially talking about Kendrick Nunn, who didn't have the name on the optic set. Another guy that I've been buying recently, and this is pure speculation, nothing crazy, but Luka Samanic from the Spurs, his name wasn't printed on his optic either. I'm sure nobody knew that but me, but just I think being able to get some of these other guys is going to be really beneficial for your personal collection and for your investing.
Should I know who Luka Samanic is? I'm not aware of Luka Samanic.
Hey, he's the 16th draft pick for the Spurs last year. played in the G League most of the year. Like I said, that's a guy I'm collecting speculatively. I mean, I've probably got about 15, 20 cards of his, and I spent less than $25, some mosaics and prisms and stuff like that. So it's nothing. I'm not telling anyone to go out and buy the other Luka. I think that's what they call him. It's just something I did in case he happens to be really good, and LaMarcus Aldridge leaves, and suddenly he's some stud. I'll have a stockpile of them that I'm ready to ship off to other people that weren't as smart as I was right now.
Still plenty young. Looks like he's 20 years old, Croatian basketball player. And hey, the Spurs are a pretty smart organization, so maybe you're onto something with that. I play DFS, so I mean, I don't play DFS G League, so I don't know, man. I never heard of this dude, but maybe he's good.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, look, they said he's compared to Jonas Jerebko, which didn't make me feel good about my investments. But in the event he turns out to be really good, I just want to have a few pieces. So like I said, you can get his base rookies for like 99 cents on eBay. And that's all I did. I just kind of got some base chromes, mosaics, stuff like that. And, I'm just holding them until we see what he's really about.
Hey, Simon, is Will correct? Is your plan to go out to hit up the Targets and the Walmarts and hoard as many of these boxes as possible?
Yeah, I mean, as a retail flipper, seeing a NBA set come out that has this many RPAs and autograph cards, autograph Zion cards, it's really a set that looks like it's going to generate some excitement. So I'm excited to try and find them in the wild and be able to hopefully flip some boxes.
What NBA cards are we targeting right now, Josh? I know you like the Hoops collection. It is worth noting, by the way, this just right before we started recording, Jokic came out. He had Corona. We saw pictures of Jokic not too long ago where he was looking really svelte. And he was one of those guys that I was kind of concerned with seeing coming out of like a quarantine of some sort because he's got a history. But he looked phenomenal. Now he's got Corona, but hopefully he's good to go in a few weeks when the NBA ramps back up. Also worth noting, for what it's worth, Trevor Ariza is not going to play. I believe he's involved in the custody battle. And Davis Bertans, he's not going to play because, well, Washington has zero chance of making, doing anything and whatever. They're somehow, they showed pity on Washington. They're going to, they're coming back. He has 2 ACLs. He's 27 years old. He's in the last year of his contract, and he wants to get paid. It doesn't make any sense for him to come back. But, Josh, what do you have for me as far as some players and specifically as far as hoops? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so as Prism and Optic and Select become more and more popular, the price goes up. So other sets, kind of fall in line and become more popular. And the NBA Hoops is a set that has been around forever, went away, but then Panini has started producing it again. And, the trends, we're just seeing trends where the Hoop set is becoming more popular. Luka's Hoops rookie you could get for $10 a couple months ago. Now it's selling for $60. I just bought a Jason Tatum for like $20. When it was less than 10 a couple months ago. So a lot of guys, Trey, their hoops are just becoming more popular as guys are getting priced out of Prism and Optic. And they're nice cards. It's a paper product and it has brand recognition. It's been around forever, since the 90s. So it's becoming more popular and it's most likely going to continue to become more popular. The Giannis Hoops rookie is over 100 raw right now. I can't stop kicking myself. I almost bought 2 back in December for 40 total, and I was like, it's a little too much. And now they're going for 100 singles raw. So it's just a nice set. I think is going to be a good investment going forward.
Well, I have you. Just give me a little preview as far as your article. What name is he working on?
Yep. So there's a bunch of guys this week. Will probably be guys like Kemba, Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal. There's also Draymond Green, Andre Drummond, Chris Middleton, some vet cards, Kobe. I touched on LeBron's Prism card in the first article. Kobe's in a similar population, so I might touch on him too.
Chief, anybody in particular looking for a basketball outside of the other Luka?
Well, I've been really heavy on Brandon Ingram recently and Porzingis. Those have kind of been 2 guys that I've been keying in on, just because with all of the, and I may end up writing an article around this next month. Who knows? But I'm kind of calling it the other guys, just because Zion's been really popular. But I think if this team is going to get to the promised land, if you look at what Brandon Ingram was doing prior to Zion getting there, I mean, he was averaging about 25, 30 a game with ease. And so I still think he's got tons of potential. The Lakers, they did the right thing and went and got Anthony Davis. And so I think it's benefited the Pelicans. And I think he's got a chance to do something special because, they don't have to key in on him the whole time and you got all these options. So Ingram was a guy I've been buying, we'll get there. I picked up one of his PSA 10s, man, for just a steal earlier, last week, and it came in the mail this week. And then, another guy that I've kind of been targeting, like I said, Porzingis, just a difference, kind of a similar concept. Luka's really popular right now. And, you can get some of Porzingis's, cards for just, bottom feeder prices, in my opinion, especially if you're talking about hoops. If you get away from some of the Prism, like his Revolution rookies, which are really, really just, beautiful cards. I mean, you can get them $75 to $100 for PSA 10s right now, which I think are, really good prices for a guy that I think is, at one point we were calling this guy a unicorn, and he got hurt and had to get traded. So I just think those two guys are in really good situations, and they don't have the attention of Luka and Zion. So those are two guys I've been kind of heavy on here the past couple weeks.
What about speculating for the NBA title, NBA championship? Do you think, is there anybody you're kind of looking at, Lakers, Clippers, Bucks, that you might give a little bit of a bump to? Do you have a thought on who you think is going to win the title, or you think it's just kind of up in the air?
Well, I mean, at one point I really thought the Lakers were going to win, and this wasn't, they're talented, but I think everything kind of surrounding Kobe, I think we've all probably played sports and been around sports, and I think it's just more than just their talent that would kind of carry them to the championship. I think this is one of those scenarios where they want to win for the city. They want to win for, Kobe and his family, and kind of be a tribute championship. So I've kind of leaned on the Lakers. Ironically, I haven't really been buying any Lakers just because with basketball, with the main guys, I kind of treat it like, cyclical stocks. I want to buy basketball when, they're kind of going out of season. I can pick up some guys for a lot lower, like LeBron, maybe, or Anthony Davis. But, I'm not really buying those primary guys right now because, when I saw what was happening to LeBron's PSA 9 and 10, his rookie Topps Chrome, I mean, it's been climbing for the past couple months. So I'm just going to hold off until I think we can get a slight market dip, and then I'll try to buy into some of those. But that's kind of been my approach here recently.
Brennan, feel free to chime in on any players that you're looking at from a basketball perspective, or if we just want to open up the next conversation as far as avoiding scams, I think is really important. What sort of scams to look out for, how to best avoid them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just to put a bow on the players I'm looking at, I feel like all the attention is on the West. So I've actually been looking in the East, and a couple of guys that I've been focused in on for a little while now is Jaylen Brown and Dante DiVincenzo. So, if I had to guess one of, the Boston Celtics or the Milwaukee Bucks, I imagine are going to come out of the East. Those are my two picks. It could be, Toronto's always a little bit scary, and I love Bam Adebayo. So Miami, if he can shut down Giannis, it could be an interesting series. But the thing about Jaylen Brown and Dante DiVincenzo is, as Will said, they're the other guys, right? Everyone's focused on Tatum. Everybody's focused on Giannis. Dante DiVincenzo is a guy who's going to play really good defense and hit a lot of big-time threes if they make a long run. And so I think some people will be kind of open their eyes to how valuable he is. He's almost like their version of Klay Thompson, although he's clearly not on that level yet in his career. And then Jaylen Brown, mid-season, we weren't sure if it was going to be Tatum or Brown in the All-Star game. He was playing that good. And so the fact that their prices are so far apart, Jaylen Brown doesn't have near the upside, the superstar upside that Tatum does. But from a production standpoint, I think they should be closer in price. So those are two guys I'm focusing on in the East. And, as I'm picking up their cards, I'm trying to practice good rules and process on eBay, because I'm starting to realize that as there's more money to be made, there is more scams out there to get you tripped up from a money perspective. And some of this stuff is going to seem basic, but honestly, when you find a card that looks like a really good deal, you sometimes kind of lose your principles and you start to hit the buy it now button before you even really look deeper. And so the first thing you can do is read the description and read the title thoroughly. And when I say read the description and when I say read the title, you can read them, but you can't always take them for what they're worth. For instance, you might see a picture of 4 cards, but the title says, 1 Giannis rookie, 4 available. So you think you're buying all 4 of them for that price, but really you're only buying 1. So that's one thing to look out for. Another is, I don't know if people just get confused or if they're purposely trying to pull the wool over your eyes, but they'll say silver in the title when it's just a base card. Now, all the Chrome cards kind of look silver, so I could see why somebody might say silver Luka Select, but it's just a base. So always be careful about it. The Select is nice because on the back of it, you'll see Prism printed if it's a parallel. But also, if the pictures aren't clear, don't be afraid to ask for more pictures. Simon had a great story, before the show where the back of the card was a little bit fuzzy. And so he asked for more pictures, and it turns out there was a dent or an imperfection on the back. And so, really dig into the pictures, really dig into the descriptions, and, really just try to make sure that you have as much information as you can before you buy that card, because there's a lot of people trying to pull one over on you out there on eBay. The last thing I'll say, we could write a series of articles on this, but the last thing I'll say, if you're buying raw specifically, look at the person's other listings. If they sell a ton of PSA and BGS graded stuff, but they're trying to get rid of a raw, something might be up, because that person clearly understands the value of grading. They clearly understand what to look for when grading. So if they've got 30 PSA 10s and PSA 9s out there and then a few raw listings, that's something where I might think that card probably is not grade worthy. So if you're going to go for it, try to get a discount, because the person clearly understands grading, and they wouldn't be selling it raw if they felt like they could get it graded for a profit.
They're basically saying this is not a 9, this is not a 10.
Right, basically. Yep.
Simon, feel free to elaborate in that story. And I know, Simon, we had a conversation as well about, you thought you got yourself a deal on some Lamar Jackson, and it didn't really work out for you.
Yeah, well, one of the things I like to do is I like to look for autographed cards, and like to sort it by ending soonest for auctions. And sometimes that'll give me about a 15-second window to try to make a decision on whether or not I want to buy a card. And I saw one time a really cheap Lamar Jackson autograph card, and I was like, holy crap, So I immediately started putting in my bid, because there was like 10 seconds left. And by the time I bid, I won the card. I was like, holy crap. I showed it to Josh, actually. And Josh comes back to me about like 5 minutes later. It's like, dude, that's not Lamar Jackson. That's a Lamar Jackson. It's not the Lamar Jackson. So it's just like, yeah, you gotta be careful about looking at the pictures carefully before you make a decision. It was actually a college card, so I don't know what team Lamar Jackson played for in college, but I chose the wrong team apparently.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I didn't even notice it at first when you sent it to me. I was like, oh, cool, and then I looked at it a little harder, and I was like,
right,
wait, that guy's
so he
Nebraska.
He was in
Lamar went to Louisville.
Red, they're both red.
Yeah.
He's in a quarterback pose, like he's pointing, like he's about to do some quarterback move, and it turns out he's a DB.
He's a DB. He's saying, "I'm covered." That's my man. He's covered. He's pointing to somebody. I'm covering that guy. That's what's going on there.
So you got to be, like if you're going to make those split-second decisions like that, like, and you don't really have time to look at the pictures or anything, you gotta be prepared to make some stupid decisions. But piggybacking on what Brendan said earlier, as far as looking at the sellers when you're buying raw cards, one thing that I look for when I'm buying raw cards is I make sure that they don't have cards in their seller name. Because if they have cards in their seller name, then they're probably card experts. And if they're card experts, they're selling that card raw for a reason. So don't necessarily think you're getting some great deal on a card that looks centered or something like that. There could be surface issues. There could be chipping on the edges. There could be all sorts of problems with a card that you're buying raw. And then on top of that, like, I also look to see how experienced the seller is. Because if the seller has a huge, like, 1,000-point score next to his name and he's selling raw cards, and there's also another good likelihood that he's selling that raw card for a reason. It's because he doesn't think it can grade.
So ideally, you want to find somebody that doesn't necessarily have a long history of selling cards, but they also have to have a certain history where they built up a bit of credibility. Right. Is that sound about right, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do. I'll typically, if I'm looking for a raw card, I'll look for someone who has like maybe maybe 100 to like 500 or something like that, just so you know that you're not dealing with a scam artist, but you're also not dealing with someone who's so much of a pro that they're going to know that you can't get the card graded to a 10.
And you're likely not to get a great deal off somebody that sold like thousands and thousands of cards as well, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that depends actually. If you see graded cards, I don't mind buying graded cards off those guys, because you can hit them up with emails asking them if they'll come lower on the price, or if they have best offer, you can come lower on those prices still. When you see a graded card, you're armed with knowing that card is perfect, right? or exactly what you're looking for. And the key there is to try to hit them with the price closest to the price that you're willing to pay. Never pay over what you're willing to pay. And if you use market movers, you'll know what you should be paying on these cards, and you can get a discount on your first payment on any subscription if you use the promo code GRINDERS over at sportscardinvestor.com, by the way.
Nicely done there, Simon.
So I definitely recommend using those tools. They'll help you to save tons of money. I've saved a lot of money bidding on cards because I knew I was getting a good deal just using the data and the charts from Sports Card Investor.
Will, how about yourself? Any sort of pitfalls you've fallen into as far as buying and just kind of browsing on eBay and things of that sort?
I haven't really caught too many. I think one of the ones that almost got me one day, man, I saw this Zion graded PSA 10. It was a select version. I think just a base concourse, I think. And, I clicked on it. I was like, oh, my God, the bidding's almost over. We're at like $30-something. And I went in there, and it was actually for like, this group. They've repackaged some cards or something like that, and they're trying to sell them to you through bidding. So I think that's one to be careful with because, like Brendan talked about, I mean, that picture is misleading. You're looking at, PSA 10, and you're going in at the last minute thinking, oh, my God, this is the deal. How did this happen? And it's not happening at all. In fact, you're just, you're bidding on, a collection of cards that guys have repackaged, and they're saying they're guaranteeing a hit, but that's not what the picture says. So, just be on the lookout for that and try not to get tripped up. And I think another thing too, even when guys are selling non-graded cards like your national treasures and stuff like that, really zoom in on those corners. I've just found that sometimes the national treasures that guys are selling, directly to you, really good deals, but I don't know how they mess these corners up so bad. I mean, it's terrible sometimes when they're selling them non-graded. So really zoom in and make sure that, you feel like the corners are acceptable before you pull the trigger. Because a lot of times, if they're not as serious about collecting, then they just kind of jam it in the holder and screw it down and they're ready to sell it to you. But, the corners are terrible.
Brennan, what sort of protection do I have if I end up buying something I don't necessarily, that's not what I thought I was getting? And also, I imagine you can message the eBay seller, and if they don't answer your question, that's got to be a giant red flag, right?
Yep. Fortunately, eBay oftentimes will side on the side of the buyer. And so what will happen is if something's wrong with the order, whether it never gets shipped, and this happened to me, I actually ordered a Jason Tatum. The guy took 3 days to ship it. The price went up ridiculous amounts, and he basically just chose not to ship it. And so what you do is you end up opening a case against them on eBay. eBay gives them the chance to make it right. And if they don't make it right within a given time frame, so this could take a couple of weeks for all this to sort out, eBay will actually give you the refund on that item as long as they feel like the seller did not do enough to make it right. So fortunately, there are protections on eBay. You'll just have to work through eBay. You'll have to fill out a form. It's not too bad. And then just wait for the seller to either fix the issue for you or eBay will take care of it. The one thing I don't think you have good luck on is if a card comes in damaged. I don't think that you're going to have great luck. So you really want to check those pictures, especially if the imperfection is either somewhere buried in the listing or in the picture somewhere. As Will said, if you zoom in and you actually kind of can see a soft corner, then you probably won't have much luck. But if you have issues with maybe the product was mislisted, if it just never got shipped, just open up a case on eBay and they'll take it from there. Inversely,
When you're selling stuff, Brennan, I've heard like basically sometimes people will artificially inflate the prices of, I'm going to buy it, and they just never buy it. And then you're just kind of stuck with it. You lose, 2 weeks of just kind of waiting. And a lot of times these people just don't get punished, correct? There's really no way to track that?
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think that eBay does a lot to monitor or to police that kind of stuff. So as a seller, you have to be careful. I typically will just do the buy it now with a best offer because it gives you more control. It gives you more control over the price, and it gives you more control over whether or not you actually want to sell to that person. You have, because when they send you an offer, you can actually look at their profile. Do they have a decent reputation? Do they have any reviews as a buyer? So doing it buy it now best offer is probably the safest way as a seller. If you do it auction, somebody bids it up and chooses not to pay, you just kind of lost out on that sale and you're going to have to relist it. Now, I don't think that you'll be charged fees on that transaction, but if the guy's prices have come down over that 2 weeks, you're kind of out of luck. So yeah, I would recommend always buy it now best offer. It just gives you more control and more protection as a seller.
What about buying unsealed boxes? Does anybody have any experience with that? Is anybody just like, there's no way I'm going to buy an unsealed box and that's that? Maybe if it's cheap enough, or it's a giant red flag if it's too cheap. Josh, your thoughts?
I would not buy unsealed. Definitely confirm that it still has the original wrapper, the Panini wrapper on it, because if it's not sealed, more than likely it's been searched through already, and you're not going to get the value that you paid for.
How can I search through it? Is there a way to kind of sort of see the cards without actually opening it, or are people like opening them up and resealing it? How does that work?
Both. Packs can be resealed, not well, but they do it.
Yeah.
Some pack designs allow you to see the cards. Like you can see the card that's on the front and the back, based on, how clear the color of the packaging. So yeah, cards can definitely be searched. It's a risky situation to buy unsealed. For sure.
I saw you shaking your head as well, Chief. Is Texas a no-fly zone for you? It's just not, no matter what the price is, you're just suspicious immediately.
Yeah, I'm just staying away, man, especially with, a lot of the current market cards, the new cards. I mean, when you're pulling packs, I think we've all probably, pulled our own, when that memorabilia card is in there. I mean, you pick it up and you're like, oh yeah, I got something in here. And, if guys are, maybe trying to pull those and kind of repack, the thinner packs or whatever, you're gonna miss out, especially if they've got a lot of listings of unopened boxes, unsealed boxes. Just stay away, man. Wait until they get them at Target and go get your own.
And anybody else have any final thoughts as far as this, or a personal experience you want to share that can maybe be like a red flag and maybe someone else can learn from it?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
I've been
duped
by the I've been duped by the picture with multiple cards, but they're only selling one. So definitely read the description. Mine was kind of a happy accident. I was buying a Carmelo rookie card lot. This was right back in December when I was really getting back into it. I ended up buying the rookie auto card, but I thought I was also getting some other nice rookies with it. I wasn't too upset about it, but definitely check the pictures in the description to make sure that they're actually selling all the cards in the picture. And another tip that I do a lot is if I'm buying from the same seller and they don't describe that they combine shipping, I'll message them and see if they do. Usually they will. And that'll save you some money on shipping, because they'll send you an invoice with all the cards you bought with just one flat rate shipping cost.
Simon?
Yeah, I was just going to add to the seller woes. I've been going to Comic-Con probably since 2013, and I usually buy retail there to flip on eBay, and that retail is super hot. So you gotta sell it while it's at its hot point. And if you drag it on and you don't sell it within a certain time period, it's basically the value comes down significantly. And I've been a seller selling on eBay before with those auctions where you list the item that you're selling and you wait 7 days. If you're doing a 7-day auction, you have to wait 7 days for that auction to end. And at the end, sometimes you'll notice like the bidding will go, well, obviously the bidding goes crazy towards the end on every eBay auction, but sometimes the bidding will go beyond what the product is typically selling for in an auction. And that's happened to me a few times where it's been significantly higher, and then the buyer never pays and they tell you, oh, well, I'll pay you on Tuesday, or I'll pay you tomorrow, or something like that. And when you try to file a complaint with eBay, if you don't get paid for that item, you really have no protections as a seller. They won't allow you to leave negative feedback for the buyers. They won't let you leave a review. If you try to go into the message boards to warn other people about a bad buyer, you can't do that either. So you really have no protections as a seller if a auction goes bad. You just have to eat it. You have to relist your item. And like I said, when you're dealing with a small window of time to get the maximum value out of a product, and you have to put it through another 7-day auction, that's 14 days between when you bought the thing and, like when it's finally going to sell. And at that point, the value can be significantly less than it was where you started. So buy it now is definitely, like a preferred way to do it if you can. So there are some items like that Garbage Pail Kids box that I sold recently, which wasn't a hot item. It wasn't an item that is in pop culture right now that everybody's like, oh, I got to get that. So that was a little bit different. I didn't mind putting that up as an auction. I didn't feel like there was going to be some fake bidders selling competing products or something like that they just wanted me eliminated so that they could sell their own products in their own auctions and eliminate some competition there. But yeah, you just got to be careful about that as a seller when you're choosing auctions.
Last topic before we move on and show off our mail day cards. Going to bring in Chief once again, talk about your article on RG and sell me on Cam. I know you're buying Cam pretty low, and sell me on him being a good purchase right now, or at least a good investment with the potential upside.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll kind of cover PSA 9 versus PSA 10 versus, BGS 9.5. And I mean, the main thing is, and I know you guys have kind of talked about this on a couple shows, but the main thing is, if you want to get into a guy and I kind of use LeBron in the article because I feel like, guys like LeBron, Brady, Jordan, their cards aren't going to – I don't think you can lose investing in those guys. And so, I may not have, $8,000 to get into a PSA 10, but I may be able to come up with, $1,500-$1,600 to get into a PSA 9. And I know that's kind of a drastic price difference, but the gap between a 9 and a 10 on cards like that, I think are valuable, because you can get into them for a lot cheaper. And the long, those are guys that I'm long-term on. So I'm not going to try to flip those today. That's a guy, any LeBrons that I'm buying, I'm holding until after retirement. And some I may hold until, I leave the earth and give it to my kids or whatever. But, those are guys like that, Brady, LeBron, Jordan, the iconic players. I think you can get into those cards for a lot cheaper in the 9.5 range and, kind of build it up until you can, stomach, buying a 10. So that was kind of the premise behind that portion of the article, not being afraid to pull the trigger on 9s and 9.5s for, some of those iconic players and even some of the newer players. And then in terms of Cam, I just feel really confidently that Cam is going to get signed by someone. When I kind of look across the landscape, I know, he didn't go to the Chargers. I know, he didn't go to, let's say Indy, they ended up signing Rivers. But I still think there's a possibility he could go to the Patriots or could go to the Steelers or could go to the Jaguars. I just think there's some opportunities that may present themselves, whether it be through a starter getting hurt or whether, someone doesn't perform well in training camp. I just think there's a good possibility he's, an MVP candidate, taking the team to the Super Bowl, still one of the best quarterbacks available. So I'm really high on Cam. The other reason I'm really high on Cam is, I'm getting his cards at, really low prices. PSA 10s, some really unique stuff that I'm getting, BGS 9.5. I've got an auto that I'm watching right now. I'm probably going to get for, $30-$40, just stuff like that. Being able to pick up a guy. Cam's a guy that I'm probably going to flip. So, if he ends up on a team and begins to start and, is able to kind of build some momentum, then I'm probably going to flip a lot of them. I'll hold a couple because I've probably got 20 graded Cams right now. And it kind of in that same vein, I kind of talked about Mariota, talked about Jameis. I'm not as high on them as Cam, obviously, because Cam isn't signed. Those guys are backups. But, I know Derek Carr got kind of hot here recently. I won't call any names, but, a guy's kind of boosted up his value. I just think Derek Carr is one bad game away from Mariota starting. And I mean that honestly. Every year he has some back injury or a thumb injury or something that just holds him back from being elite. And, you got a guy like Mariota there that could really change this offense. And I think what kind of made me think about that was we saw what happened to Mariota in Tennessee, and then you see what's the guy from Miami? You see Tannehill come in, and I mean all he's doing is handing the ball off and throwing off play action, but now he's got another secured contract. And who's to say this couldn't happen for Mariota, being in a really what I'm going to consider to be a little bit more wide open offense with Jacobs and Jerry, and I just think this offense could be set up for him, kind of like maybe the Tennessee offense was a little bit better for Tannehill. And then, Jameis in the same boat, back up. Maybe he gets a chance to learn. Jameis is probably more long-term unless Brees gets hurt. But those are kind of some guys that I'm looking at. And same thing for Trubisky. I'm not a big believer in Nick Foles. That's just personal. I know I'm hogging up the conversation, so
no, you're fine.
Please forgive me, but I'm just not a big believer in Nick Foles like everybody else. I know he's won a Super Bowl, but look at him with the Eagles before, look at him with the Chiefs, look at him with I just don't see this elite quarterback that's going to lead Chicago to a Super Bowl. So I still think Mitch has a chance to have a starting job with that particular team, and it doesn't hurt that they aren't that expensive. So that's another reason why I'm really, really high on that group of quarterbacks.
And not too long ago, there was speculation in the sports books as far as where Cam was going to land. I'm on the DK Sportsbook. I'm on the FanDuel Sportsbook. The only thing I can find is Cam is 25-1 to start week 1 for the Chargers. For what it's worth. It's the only thing I see as far as speculation. For what it's worth,
it won't be the Chargers.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Listen,
maybe go ahead.
I honestly think the Steelers or the Jaguars. I just think one of those. At one point, I was a little bit higher on the Patriots, and I still think he could go there. But I think the Steelers and the Jaguars. You cannot tell me right now that Big Ben is going to finish this season. I don't see it.
Here's my argument against the Jaguars. I don't think the Jaguars want to win 5 or 6 games. I think they want to win 2 games. And also, like, there's not going to be any fans. So even like you can't even make the argument of like, hey, let's bring in Cam and maybe 20,000 more people might show up. Like, I don't know how we even know how many fans are going to be coming to these games or allowed to these games. And he can move tickets, sure, but if they're not available, what's the point? That's my argument against Jacksonville. I think they're perfectly fine going 2-14 this year. And what's the point of going 5-11? I don't know. That's sort of my thought in that. But it's the first team that loses their quarterback, and I don't like speculate on injuries. And I see you shaking your head there, Brennan. Are you a Pittsburgh fan? I know you're in Ohio or close to Ohio, and Pittsburgh and Ohio close enough. Maybe you're a Browns fan. I don't know. We'll talk to you in a second. But Big Ben, he's probably not going to hold up. And I agree. The downgrade from Ben to whoever is the Pittsburgh quarterback right now is massively significant. That Cam can certainly make up the difference and all of a sudden give him a puncher's chance, or maybe even better. Because he's still just 31. Maybe he's an old 31. He's kind of beat up and coming off injuries, and we don't know if he's recovered, but his ceiling is immense. And if you guys can buy him on the cheap, why not? Brennan, jump in here.
Yeah, well, I was actually a Bengals fan for a long time, although that was not a fun ride. So now that I'm in Charlotte, I've moved to the Panthers. But I honestly think Cam I think Cam would be a great fit for someone who loses their quarterback, especially a contender, because he can come in and create with his legs no matter what the playbook looks like. So, I also agree with Will. I think Cam is a flip. I definitely think he's a flip. I don't know if he's done enough in his career to hold, substantial long-term value. That being said, he's a lot of fun to watch. Every time he runs one in, he does the Superman. So, I could see him finding a spot as a starter, even if it's for a few weeks mid-season, and then hopefully grabbing that as a playoff spot. So I think Cam is definitely a flip, and I wouldn't be surprised. I agree with you. I don't think the Jags really want him. They tried to make a run at winning the last couple of years. It didn't work. Steelers are interesting because Big Ben comes into the season injured. He's just perpetually questionable. But, so I do think Cam will have a chance. I don't know if we're going to get that week 1, though. I don't know if we'll know where he's going week 1. At this point, I'd expect him to be a kind of a safety valve for someone who might lose a starter that's trying to make the playoffs. But I agree with Will. It's a nice flip, and I think he'll start a game this year. If I had to bet my money on it, he will start a game for somebody this year.
I mean, he can just wait and find the best possible position for him, which just be patient, and something's going to open up. Like, you're not rooting for injuries, but it's the NFL, and that's the life of being a quarterback. A certain number of guys are going to be knocked out for sure. Will, were you referencing Vegas Dave with your Derek Carr comment? Does he scoop them all up in the market? Is that what happened?
Oh man, listen, VG, VD, Vegas Dave, man. I mean, just banging the drum for Derek Carr. I'm telling you, Derek Carr is like Big Ben to me. I don't see him going all the way, not the whole season. I mean, he's gotten hurt a lot, and I actually like Derek Carr as a quarterback and as a person. But if you can't finish the season, just buy up a couple Mariotas and see what happens. I'm gonna flip him too.
They put 5 years, 125 million. Like, it's about a massive contract for Carr, and we were looking at this pre-show. Just interesting. Me and Simon were talking about it. I think next year, as far as the hit against the cap, and I'm not a capologist and I don't specialize in this stuff, but I think if he falters again, maybe next year all of a sudden they can cut him, and the contracts aren't guaranteed in the NFL. Anybody else want to chime in before we talk about our mail day? Anybody have a thought as far as Winston or any of our quarterbacks? Jump in here.
Yeah, I think that you could probably add Denver to that list of potential landing spots for Cam. Just with Drew Lock, there's a lot of uncertainty with him. I know he did well at the end of last season, but there's a lot of weapons in Denver, and they are playing to win. So I could see Cam totally ending up on that team. And, as far as Mitch Trubisky, Will and I are on the same page there. We think alike on a lot of these players, and I'm glad to hear someone else who has some common sense to know that Nick Foles isn't going to be starting for the Bears this season.
There are two Mitch Trubisky truthers outside of his family, and they're both on this show, apparently.
Hey, listen, only for card purposes, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Only for card purposes.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, exactly.
Don't add the qualifier. That's no fun, man. It's what
I'm an Eagles fan, so I love Nick Foles, but as a card guy, I'm liking Mitch Trubisky.
It's interesting you throw out Denver because, of course, Elway, former quarterback, he understands the value of a quarterback, and like you said, Locke, who really knows what he's going to be. The other guys, that Driscoll, Brett Rippon. Is that Mark Rippon's kid? I don't know. Maybe. Anybody know who Mark Rippon is? Am I old? I'm not sure. Maybe. Let's move on. Let's talk about mail day. Simon, you're batting first. Devin's going to throw up your cards you bought recently. Tell him what you bought. Tell him what you're targeting, and tell him where to find you around the interwebs.
Yeah, well, you can find me on Twitter at Yeti Boom Films, and you can find me in the RG Discord in the Sports Card channel. Chief, myself, Rhino, Head Chopper's been getting really into cards now. There's a lot of us in there. Brennan pops in there. So there's a lot of us in there that share our mail days and share our ideas on cards and which cards to get. If you're a novice or if you're an expert, everybody's welcome. And we got a good mix of both types of card investors in there. As far as the cards that I've bought this week, I didn't get anything through the mail per se, but I did have a lot of retail mosaic left over. So I broke down and opened some packs, and I was able to find a green mosaic Ja Morant and a green mosaic Jam Master LeBron James. So I was happy with that. And, that made up for not being receiving any packages this week, except for grading material, so I can send my cards in protected cases and get some cards graded this week, hopefully, or send them to get graded anyways this week.
I know everybody's out there and wondering, Brett Rippon's actually the nephew of Mark Rippon. I know y'all are like, whoa, this is interesting stuff. Breaking news here. You guys know who Mark Rippon is, right? Maybe? Yes?
Yeah,
possibly?
I know who he is, yeah.
All right, there you go. It's not just me. Same deal, Will. What cards are you showing off? Tell the people where to find you on the interwebs. You can remind about your article, the whole deal.
Yeah, man. You can find me on Twitter at ChiefJustIce06. Same thing in the Discord. It's a lot of fun in the Discord. You get some really good ideas. A lot of guys are kind of sharing what they're thinking about doing, and a lot of the times it makes sense, man. It'll point me in a direction to kind of grab a few cards that maybe I wasn't thinking about. But yeah, the cards that I guess I'm going to share from mail. Obviously, I've got a Cam in there. One that I'm really proud of, man, a PSA 10 rookie refractor die cut. As Simon knows, it's not easy to get 10s on die cut. So when I was able to snag that one for what I call the low, that's when I just went ahead and bought it now. Got that one, I think, early this week. And then the same thing for Brandon Ingram. I talked about him. I was able to pull his rookie prism, the red mosaic. I got that one for well under market, already graded. I mean, if you check the prices on that right now, I think they're going for about $250. I got it for $85. So essentially, I could flip that one today if I wanted to. I'm still going to hold it and try to wait until the NBA kicks off for that one. But those are two that I got in the mail, and I think I've got some more mail out there right now since the show even kicked off. So I'll probably be throwing those in the Discord once we wrap up. But those are the guys I grabbed up.
Brennan, you're next.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the DFS Advisor. And as far as my pickups this week, so the first one I got in was a Zion SGC 10. This is actually my first SGC card. And what I'm finding is they're typically around 50 or 60% of the PSA 10 equivalent. And so one of the hardest things with SGC is to value them. And I think comping the PSA 10, if you can't find any SGCs and just coming down about 40 to 50%, that's a good target price for those cards. So I was pretty happy to get that Zion at about 60% of what his PSA 10 was worth. And then on last week's show, I told you guys I was starting to pick up some Randy Moss in preparation for the documentary about Tom Brady next year. And you have to do it this early because apparently that's a thing now. Documentaries come out, we buy the cards. So I'm trying to be way early on this one. I picked up a nice 1998 Flair Randy Moss. I'm trying to stay away from the Topps Chrome. It's a little bit out of my budget for football. I'm a basketball guy, so I don't want to get crazy. So I actually picked that thing up for $25. And if you think about it, if you bought that thing raw for, say, $5, sending it out and getting it graded, there's no guarantee you get a 9, and there's no guarantee you get it back anytime soon. And so you can find some pretty nice Randy Moss stuff graded for about what it would cost you to actually buy it raw and send it in. Now, you're not going to get 10s for those prices, but as far as flips and short-term investments go, PSA 9s are just fine. They're going to go up as well. They might not go up as fast, but they'll go up as well.
Josh, close us out.
Yep. You can find me on Twitter, Saki21, and Instagram, Saki Collects, all one word. I post pictures of some of the cards I've been picking up. But I touched on the Hoops set earlier. This week I picked up a Luka Hoops rookie for around 30, selling for over 50 now, and the Tatum Hoops rookie picked up for under 20, and it's actually pushing 30 now. So those were two nice pickups that I need to look over a little more to see if I want to grade them, but can't go wrong with the Hoops in my opinion.
Sweet. Thanks everybody for joining us. Again, reminder, like and subscribe, the whole deal. If you want to hit up the sportscardinvestor.com promo code, once again, Grinders, that's GRINDERS, you get 20% off your first payment. Use the comment section. Tell us what you want to see on future shows. We much appreciate it. With that said, thank you to Simon, Will, Brennan, Josh. I was Dean. This was Sports Card Grinders. We're out of here. Holler.